Are you ready to take your macro photography outdoors? Well, today we are on video 2 on our macro photography basics. Now, if you haven't had a chance to watch the first video, what is macro photography, then I suggest that you start that first and then come back to this video. The link is down below. Let's just recap really fast what I talked about a little bit in the last video. I was basically telling you what macro photography is, and if you have shot macro photography indoors like I asked you to, you'll be on a tripod, you'll have no wind problems, you can use any f-stop, shutter speed, whatever you would like, you can use indoors to learn your camera. Now we're to the next step where, yep, it's time to get outdoors and have some fun. And I'm going to suggest, let's just go for it. You're gonna hand hold, but we are only going to use natural light today. I will talk about external lighting in the next video. All right, let's get ready. You're gonna grab a piece of paper or a pad. We're gonna make a cheat sheet so you can scan through this before you head outdoors and have some fun macro shooting. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is set your camera to aperture priority. We're gonna focus on the aperture that works best with your lens. I'm using a Canon 100mm, so the best, sharpest area in that lens is f8, but I can push it to f22. What I suggest, if you're not a Canon person, Google your lens and find out what's the best aperture that you can use, or the best that you can use for macro photography. Now let's say that you want less in focus. Let's say that you've shot a wonderful piece of grass with water drops, and you just don't want all that background that may distract us from those beautiful water drops. What you'll want to do is take your f-stop to say 5.6. I've even gone to 2.8 sometimes when I really want that dreamy, blurry look. It's up to you to pay attention to see how the feel is of that photograph, and play, and play. That's what I do. It's a lot of fun. Because we're working outdoors and we have issues with wind or moving subjects, if you're using a 100mm macro lens, you really don't want your shutter speed to go below 1/125th of a second. I would actually try to keep my shutter speed higher than 1/200th of a second. And the way that you can do that is to have auto ISO. Now, I have 2 videos down below, one on shutter speed for macro photographers and one on ISO. And you will hear me say that I really feel you should keep your ISO very low so you don't have this grainy look to it. But we're going outdoors and you need that shutter speed fast because you're hand holding. So we have to compensate somehow. And one thing that's really nice nowadays is that your software program can really help you with high ISO numbers that you may get when you take the photograph. What I'd like you to do is really pay attention to the back of your camera. Look at your histogram. Is it peeking to one side or the other side? You kind of want to try to get that histogram going towards the middle, which would be really nice. But if it really goes off, then it's time to adjust. And one of the ways that you can adjust is exposure compensation. Basically what that means is if you move it to the minus side, it's going to make things look darker. And if you move it to the plus side, it's going to make things look brighter. I want to talk to you about color, which is temperature. Don't worry about all the technical, just listen to what I say and trust me. Okay, so what we need to do before we start shooting is look at your lighting condition. If you're in the shade and it feels cool, then put your camera on shade. So now let's talk about getting your macro shot in focus. I mean, that can be really difficult when you get really close up to your subject, but let's just talk about general. If you're just doing a close-up, you can go ahead and have the camera, just push the camera halfway and have it focus on the subject. When I first started, I would have it on autofocus continuous, which means that wherever I moved, as long as I had my finger on the focusing button, then the camera would focus on the various areas of my frame. But with that said, the closer you get to your subject, the camera will not be able to handle it. So what I do is I will be in a location that I feel like this is a good composition. I set my lens to a general area that's in focus, and then I take the shots by holding my hand under the lens and then taking pictures by moving towards the subject and farther away from the subject. Very short distances, because you will realize that you will not need to move very much when it comes to macro photography. Hi, I'm Janice, and I'm the founder of the Creative Mentorship Program, where we help macro and landscape photographers make world-class photography. It's an amazing program. Check out the link down below. Now, what you're gonna do when you go outside is you're gonna look for subjects that are in the shade. You do not want crazy bright and dark areas in the macro shot. So the best thing that I use is a reflector. Now I have two reflectors. One is a little bit bigger if I'm not doing extreme macro. And then I have this cute little baby reflector. And yes, I unboxed this reflector, so you should check this out. It's perfect for macro photography. And this helps me so much when it comes to actually fixing crazy light conditions on the subject. And with that said, download my free ultimate and yes, essential macro photography toolkit to get your hands on my top macro photography creation resources to make your next image spectacular, so you can create work faster without the guesswork. So what happens is we get outside, we're all excited because we got it focused, we got the subject, whether it's a bug or leaf or whatever, and then we move on. I'd like you to stay with that same subject. Say if it's a ladybug, because they're so cute, focus the ladybug straight on, focus it up. Put your camera, your lens up so you can look up at the ladybug. Maybe look straight down, look to the side, look sideways. Do a variety of compositions on that ladybug. So look at your subject and play. Move around and take the shots. When you come into post-processing, you will pick the one that you really like. Now remember that even though you're focusing on that one subject, you really do have to pay attention to your background. Everything combines in a beautiful story, and the story is yours with the main subject, your background, what's in focus, how much depth of field you have. That will all express what you love to do with your macro photography. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything specific that you would like to understand when it comes to macro photography, and I will do a video just for you. Okay, this is it. Now, next week we're going to talk about using a flash, and you'll be surprised on it isn't that difficult. I'll show you how. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. And always remember that your 1,000 words does make a difference. Cheers!